lot of people have been asking me about kind of just this whole startup process, and just, not seeing the inside of a cockpit before. So I kind of want to walk through exactly how you get the airplane started and everything that happens before we can actually go fly. So we will jump right in. So initially, what you have to do is kind of prime the airplane. So I just put my foot on the brake. I'm kind of priming the engine right now. And then there's a key that you can't see, calling out clear prop. That's important so nobody gets sliced. And then you turn the key, and it's kind of like starting up an engine. And if you primed it, then the blades will rotate and it will start up. So mind you, my feet are on the brakes, which is underneath. You can't, see them. And of course, safety first, put your seatbelt on. Right? Headphones are on. They are soundproof. My spare headphones there, they were good. And so now I am going to look up on the iPad like the call signals that we can put into the communication system. Ultimately, it tells you the weather, so I'm going to put that into the top radio, and then the other frequency is our communication frequency, so I'm going to tune that in at the bottom. And so that's what you'll see me doing. Now, once we have done that, so now I'm listening to the weather, we can taxi while I'm doing all this stuff. And, looking for traffic and listening to the weather. You'll see me turn a knob while I'm taxiing, and I'm adjusting the altimeter. So making sure that the airplane knows where the ground is. And that's because I heard it from the weather. The weather tells you what the altimeter is. And so now we're just going to taxi. And you don't taxi with the yoke, so like the thing that looks like the steering wheel that has no control while you're on the ground. You have to use your feet. So this entire time, my feet is what's steering the airplane. So it's about a 2 to 5 minute taxi. I'll kind of speed it up here so that you guys don't get too bored, but we taxi all the way to where we're going to take off. So now we're coming up to the run-up area, and so this is where this turn is going to take us. And at the run-up area, this is where we do our final checks to make sure that the airplane is in good working condition before we take off. So what you're going to see here is that there's a checklist, and I have the majority of it memorized, so I'll kind of go through some checks, and then I'll use the checklist to make sure that I didn't forget anything. So the airplane has 2 magnetos that's what keeps the engine running while we're in the air. The battery is only used to get the engine started and for the electronics. So I am pushing up the RPMs to check the magnetos to make sure that both of them work so that we don't fall out the sky at whatever point. And if one of them fails, we always have the other one as a backup. There's a lot of redundancy in airplanes. Checking all of my indicators to make sure they look good and that they're saying what they're supposed to say before we actually take off. I'm also checking our carb heat to make sure there's no icing and there's nothing blocking any of the ports that bring air into the actual airplane. And so that's kind of what I'm bent over doing. I'm real extra. I don't know why I'm so dramatic, but it doesn't take all of this. I'm just being extra. And then once I see that everything looks well, then we'll double check the checklist, make sure that our seatbelts are on, everything is trimmed so that when we take off, everything looks good. It's kind of equivalent to when you're in your car and you check to make sure that you're in drive so that you don't accidentally go in reverse. Now I'm struggling with the door. I guess I closed it wrong, but whatever, we'll get it. Close the door, make sure it's latched so that it doesn't open while we're in the air. And then, we'll make sure that the right switches are on and we're prepared for the flight. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, is just getting myself all ready to take off. So the goal is to always to double check for traffic to make sure nothing is outside or around us. I think I'm struggling with my headset, and that's why I keep looking down at the side, because I'm trying to get my headset to work. So here we are taxiing up to the hold short line, and I have to make a radio call, but my headset is like, I keep getting feedback, so it's like making this loud noise. So this is what I'm struggling with. I'm trying to adjust the volume so that I can talk and people can hear me. Otherwise, like, I can't really take off because you gotta be able to communicate. So made my radio call, checking again to make sure I don't see any other airplanes. Usually don't. This is like 6 a.m. so it's pretty empty. And now I am getting ready to take off. I'm gonna come up here, and the goal is to stay on that center line, so the line in the middle. Checking my time, because one of the only ways to figure out where you're at, where you're going, is to, see how much time has elapsed. And now I'm just gonna, put in all the power and hold that center line, and I'm doing a pretty good job, shockingly. Hope my instructor's proud, because it's pretty straight. And now we're fast enough to take off, and look at that, off of the ground. The airplane wants to fly. That's what it's made to do. That's what it's gonna do. We're just, the manipulators. Kind of hard to see, though, when you take off, because of the angle that you have to kind of climb at. So it's advanced in like looking over the windshield and kind of keeping your climb rate coming so that you can get higher in the air. And then once we get to about 600 feet off the ground, because I'm going to stay at the airport, the number we're looking for is 600, and once we get to 600, we'll start turning left, and get ready to set ourselves up to land. And we're still climbing here, double checking, making sure that everything in front of me is clean and clear. The goal is to always have your head on a swivel. I don't do a great job actually with my hand on the throttle, and that's something that I'm working on, especially like when taking off, because for emergency purposes you should keep your hand on the throttle. Bad habit, I'm working on it. But once you get to 1,200 feet, in this case, you saw me pull that throttle back to kind of slow down, because we don't want to climb anymore. We want to stay right at 1,200 feet. And now we're making another turn. All this happens, pretty fast. Quite interesting at how fast all of this happens. Just checking around, making sure, things are in the green, stuff looks good. Lining up with the airport here. You'll see the runway. You probably won't, but the runway is to my left, and the goal is to stay parallel with the runway. So I'm looking to make sure I'm parallel, holding the right heading, the direction that I want to go. Looking to the airport, making sure I'm at the right altitude. Like, you're just always thinking, and you're always trying to think about like what's next. So now we're getting ready to land. So we're going to slow the plane down. We are going to put in our first degree of flaps, making sure that we are slow enough so we don't break the airplane. You have to be at a certain speed before you can add flaps. And then looking outside to make sure that I'm at a 45-degree angle past where I want to land. And once I see that, I'm going to start to turn. And while I'm turning, I'm going to add in another degree of flaps. And I'm going to keep turning here, keep turning. Get straight on our base. So that's what we call this leg of the trip. And we're trying to keep our airspeed a little fast, not too fast, but coming down, looking for 90 and then I'm looking out the window to make sure I see the runway, and then I'm looking to make sure that final is clear, that there's no other airplanes that may have shown up, because technically you don't have to use a radio in this particular area. It's a good practice, but you just have to keep your eyes outside of the airplane to make sure you don't see anybody coming. So final was clear, so I'm making this turn, and now I'm adding another layer, our last layer of flaps, and I'm gonna turn the airplane to get even with the runway. I do like this weird shoulder shake thing. I don't know why. It just helps. Like, I've been struggling to stay center, and so this is what helps me. So it's kind of weird, but it is what it is. And so now the goal is to do whatever it takes to keep the airplane straight and keeping it headed towards the runway. As you may be able to see, I'm getting blown a little bit. There is a wind coming from the left, and so it's taking me a little bit extra effort to see it blowing me, keeping the airplane straight. And so the goal here is to, move the controls and my feet as much as possible to kind of keep the airplane straight and level. And then once you get close to the ground, we're going to, kind of slow down, pull the airplane back, and let it land on its back two feet. And there we are on the ground. We're kind of crooked off the runway, but the goal is to be, dead center. But that's why I'm out here practicing, so that I can get, better at my landings. And so now we're cleaning up, put the flaps in, double checking to make sure everything where it needs to be. And then we put full power back in, and we'll take off here when everything's in the green and we're fast enough. And look at that, right back up and off of the runway. And that is a walkthrough of me taking off and landing the airplane. Hope you guys found it helpful.